New York's mayoral race is really heating up, and with so much hanging in the balance, will people make it to the polls before violence spills out onto the streets? Well, let's hop into the pages of Devil's Reign issue number 3 and find out together, shall we? Alrighty then, so as we pick up with the story, Ben Reilly is the prisoner of the police after getting arrested at the end of the previous issue. It seems that some of the cops really hate vigilante types, and at least one of them is more than ready to make Ben suffer for all the sins of his fellow heroes if it means turning on them. Luckily, the newest Spider-Man isn't the guest of New York's finest too long, though, as he ends up getting saved by the Thing and Human Torch, though in a rather odd bit of writing, they don't seem to realize that this is Ben and not Peter, or at least they don't bring it up and they treat him like it's Peter. I know he's Peter's clone and he's supposed to look just like him. Do they all think that Peter's just doing something differently with his hair these days? Now, elsewhere in the city, Luke Cage officially announces his candidacy for the mayor of New York. Obviously, he has a lot of support around him these days following Mayor Fisk's overstep with the law, and how even the most uninformed voter out there can see clearly that Fisk's new Thunderbolt initiative isn't about keeping New Yorkers safe, but about hurting the superhero community to feed Fisk's own ego. You know, it's funny, I was waiting for someone in the press to bring up Luke's past as an ex-con, and then I'm reminded, wait, Wilson Fisk is the biggest ex-con of them all. As far as any other legal issues the Cage campaign might run into, thankfully he has a secret weapon in the form of Foggy Nelson, who is going to be representing him moving forward. Foggy's not alone either. While he's on the campaign trail, his partner, Kristen McDuffie, is actually in prison right now trying to get Mrs. Fantastic Sue Storm up to speed on everything that's going on outside. A win for Luke would obviously be a great move in the right direction for turning around these corrupt laws that saw Reed and Sue thrown in prison. The only problem is they'll need to act quickly, as Fisk's own personal outlawing is already starting to have some unforeseen effects in other states. Apparently everyone else in the Union is fearing that if heroes become outlawed in New York, they'll want to move elsewhere, which could mean a superhuman refugee crisis, maybe even a return to the Superhero Registration Act if they're not careful. Now, never let it be forgotten, the real inciting incident for why Wilson Fisk is doing all of this right now is because Daredevil messed with his mind at one point. Kingpin knew his secret identity, and now he doesn't anymore. Wilson monologues in front of a captive Purple Man, and that ends up being probably the best choice he made, as Purple Man admits he too feels like someone has tampered with his own mind. In fact, it feels like someone used his own type of power against him. Only it wasn't the Purple Man who is to be blamed this time around, it was his purple children who did the deed, and now that Kingpin knows that they could be used against him or used to help him, Mayor Kingpin attempts to dispatch Dr. Octopus and his brand new Superior 4 to go and collect the children. Thankfully, Otto isn't exactly in a kidnapping mood. In fact, Doc Ock begins to think that this relationship with Kingpin is no longer tenable, and Otto hates living under the thumb of small-minded individuals, so it looks like he's going to have to turn on him. Now, back at the Heroes HQ, they go over their options right now. Luke's polls aren't exactly looking great right now, mainly because Kingpin is cheating thanks to his own use of the Purple Man's powers. And if they are playing an unwinnable game right now, Daredevil thinks there's no better choice than to go to the mayor in the night and deal with him personally. It won't exactly be the popular move, it won't be earning the superheroes any friends, but if they don't do it and do it now, they're certainly going to regret it later. Now, what of the Purple Children, who are all so important now and could easily end up changing the balance of power as they see fit? Well, they're running around New York City hunted by the Thunderbolt program. Zdarsky actually does a good job infusing the children with characters that they didn't really have before. You see, the children get taken in by a kindly old woman who wants to help them hide. A couple of the children just wanted to use their powers on her to force her to hide them. But Joe, one of the more prominent children, thinks that they should actually take help from people willing to give it for a change instead of just messing with everyone's minds, lest they end up like their crappy father Kilgrave. Now, when night falls, Daredevil and the others make their way to City Hall. Fisk had to abandon his own personal mansion after the ends of that Winter Soldier tie-in. Here's the thing though, they're only there for a few minutes when they come under attack by the Superior 4. At first, you think that Ock and his people from the multiverse are actually defending Mayor Kingpin, but quite the opposite. They came to bump him off themselves. Which, in a way, ends up making Wilson one hell of a chess master. Now all of his enemies are fighting each other instead of him. During the fight, we learn something very fascinating too. The multiversal Ocks end up really zeroing in on Iron Man for some reason, and that's because, well, that's not Iron Man at all. That's actually Chameleon in disguise. This actually makes a lot of sense when we stop and consider Iron Man's weird behavior through the last couple issues. Apparently, Ock had planned to rule New York through Mayor Stark as a proxy. But now, thankfully, the cat is out of the bag, even if that means the bigger question is, hey, where the hell has Tony been this whole time if they've been running around with a fake? The fight quickly ends up getting ahead of our heroes, and as the comic comes to a close, poor Foggy Nelson ends up getting roughed up by a bunch of Kingpin's own goons hoping to sabotage Luke's campaign. And so that was Devil's Reign issue number 3, everybody, and overall I thought this issue was a fun, enjoyable, but ultimately kind of a mixed bag story. The Spider-Man discontinuity kind of threw me, though I do love the idea of new Spider-Man Ben teaming up with Human Torch and Thing for the rest of the series. I just hope they do eventually realize who they're dealing with, because I know it would drive me crazy if they don't realize, oh hey, this is Ben, not Peter. I love Foggy Nelson and Kristen McDuffie getting more play in this series. After all, this is a Daredevil event, so to have so many Daredevil supporting characters be hooked into the main goings-on I thought was very cool. Hell, I'm pleasantly surprised by the use of the Superior 4. I assumed they were just spin-off tie-in fodder, yet here they are actually fighting the heroes and serving as good foils, which makes sense because it's not like Fisk can fight them all himself now, can he? Hell, Doc Ock is better, more interesting, and more threatening as a villain in this story than he has been the last several Spider-Man stories he's been featured in. Heck, Daredevil really stepped up in this issue as well. They're kind of showcasing that the whole obsession Kingpin has with Daredevil is kind of a two-way street, and now Matt has accidentally led his friends into a trap. Overall, I'd give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Pretty good, can't wait to see where they go with it next.
Hey there everyone, Kate Joel again, and I just want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. It means a lot to me. And hey, if you enjoyed the book I covered in this issue and want some comics of your own, might I recommend Book Depository? It's my #1 place for shopping for comic book trades. You get a great price, and if you use my link down in the description, you'll actually be helping me out at the same time. You get something, I get something, everybody wins, right? So until next time everyone, I've been Joel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.